Welcome back to BTOS. Beyond the Other Side, where our conversations go beyond the obvious. In our last episode, we talked about that infamous Villisca Axe murder house.
Yeah, that one was definitely a chilling deep dive.
Right. And this time, we're tackling another location that just sends shivers down your spine. The Hinsdale House out in rural New York. Some call it the Dandy House, too.
Oh yeah, the Hinsdale House. I've heard some things about that one. A lot of stories swirling around.
Yeah, it seems like it's one of those places that really blurs the line between what we can explain and what we just, well, can't. And you guys have sent in a ton of material on it, historical accounts, paranormal investigations, even personal stories. Looks like a lot to unpack.
So many different perspectives on this one. Definitely makes you wonder what exactly is going on or went on at that place.
Right. So our mission here is to dive into all of it, see if we can separate fact from fiction, and maybe, just maybe, get a little closer to the truth of what's happening at the Hinsdale House. But let's start with the Dandy family. They're the ones who really brought this house to everyone's attention. Moved in back in 1970, right?
Yeah, 1970. I think they were looking for that quiet country life,
Yeah.
A little escape from the everyday. Seems like they got way more than they bargained for.
Right from the get-go. Even before they were fully settled in, there was this weird incident with Clara's brother. He was helping them. And apparently the house was just swarmed with bees and flies, like covered in them.
Dead ones all over the floor, live ones all over the windows.
Yeah.
And it was a really odd time of year for that kind of infestation. It was almost like a warning sign,
And it just kept getting stranger. I mean, their son, Mike, and his friends said they saw this transparent boy near the lake on the property.
Yeah.
But that wasn't even the worst part.
Oh, you mean the part where they said he was missing half his head?
Yeah, that part. Talk about disturbing. And then you've got Clara hearing chanting coming from the woods. And it wasn't just her. Their dog was freaking out, too.
It's like animals can sense things we can't.
For sure. And then it escalates even more. Mike and his friend hear an axe thudding in the woods, and then a woman screaming. Inside the house, a window slams shut on Clara, even though there's barely a breeze. And then in Mike's room, stuff starts flying off the shelves.
Yeah, that's when they call in Father Alphonsus. He was from St. Bonaventure University, and he thought at first it might be poltergeist activity, the classic moving objects and stuff.
So he blesses the house, and things actually quiet down for a bit. 3 months, I think.
A little break.
Yeah.
But then, like you said, it ramps back up.
Oh, yeah. It comes back full force. You've got knocking in the walls. Tina sees a young girl in her mirror. And then there's this really creepy thing where Tina goes completely unresponsive after a crash outside. And her eyes are just like black.
Yeah, the black eyes thing. That always points towards something, something darker. Makes you wonder if it was more than just your average haunting.
Definitely. And then they find the fireplace in the basement crawl space, totally dismantled, every brick stacked neatly. I mean, how do you explain that?
It's just bizarre. Like, who would even do that?
Right.
And in that tiny, cramped space.
That's when Father Alphonsus comes back. But this time, he brings a psychic with him, Alex Tanis. And he's the one who claims to see bodies stacked in that crawl space.
Tanis had this whole theory, right? About the house being an old stagecoach stop and travelers getting robbed and murdered there. 7 spirits trapped, he said.
But Mike and his friend are still skeptical, even after all this. And then Mike gets into a car accident. He swears there was another person in the car, but they never find anyone.
Oh, man. And Clara was convinced the haunting had something to do with it. It's just tragic.
It really is. So Father Alphonsus and Tanis come back for a final cleansing. This time, Tanis sees more visions, a soldier, a girl who might have died in Tina's room, and another spirit blocking the others from leaving. It takes them hours, and there's peace for a little while, but then it starts up again.
Ugh, that's relentless. You can see why the family finally decided they couldn't take it anymore.
Yeah, they end up leaving in 1974. And to make matters worse, the local paper and the town basically ridiculed them for the whole thing.
Awful. Clara, who later changed her name to Miller, ended up writing a book about it all called Echoes of a Haunting. Can you imagine having to live through all that and then get mocked for it?
It's terrible, but all these stories swirling around, some of them just aren't true. The St. Bonaventure archives have actually been trying to debunk a lot of the myths.
Yeah, like the hanging tree. People say a woman named Elizabeth was hanged there, but the archives can't find any proof.
And that story about the boy who died in a buzzsaw accident.
That happened on a different farm entirely, not on the Hinsdale property. The boy's buried in Cuba, New York, not there.
So you see how these stories get twisted over time?
It's like a game of telephone. except with spooky stories. It's important to get the facts straight, out of respect for the Dandy family and for Father Trouble, too.
Absolutely. But moving on, we've got all these modern paranormal investigations. Like, remember Alex Tannis, the psychic? He really felt like there was something deeply dark about the place, and he was the one who first mentioned the possibility of murders there.
7 murders, to be exact. And a lot of the investigators who came after him felt that same sense of, of evil. One team, they even had an investigator named Nikki who had to leave because she got such bad headaches and blurry vision.
The basement and that crawl space are consistently the creepiest spots. Like, we know the Dandies were terrified of the basement. And then one investigator claimed to see bodies stacked down there, just like Tannis had described.
It's almost like that whole area is just soaked in, I don't know, bad vibes, residual energy maybe.
Yeah, and some investigators tried all kinds of things to connect with whatever might be there. One group did a giving tree ritual, writing down their fears and burning them as an offering.
Trying to appease the spirits, maybe. Yeah. Nikki, the investigator, she kept seeing shadow figures, and then, get this, flies appeared in Mary's room in the middle of winter.
In the middle of winter. That's definitely not normal. Some people think flies are a sign of, something demonic. And Nikki said she felt like she couldn't breathe in Mary's room.
It's like certain rooms hold on to whatever happened there more strongly, maybe.
Could be. Another team tried to recreate old photos. They used flashlights to talk to spirits, even brought in a Ouija board. It's wild, some of the things they tried.
Oh, and they had that device that turns environmental readings into words. And supposedly it said scared and storm right when there was a storm outside.
Right. And their EMF detector was going crazy too.
Makes you wonder, right? Could be something to it.
And then you've got Daniel, the guy who owns the house now. He's got some fascinating theories. He thinks the land itself might be just as haunted as the house, if not more so.
Oh, yeah. He mentioned people feeling overtaken by something out there. And then there were those supposed murders by the Everett brothers, not to mention the human remains that were found.
It's like the whole area is steeped in darkness.
Yeah, a lot of layers to this one.
Definitely. And Daniel says specific spots in the house are really active, like Michael's old room where all that poltergeist stuff happened, and the living room where they had that crazy Ouija board incident with the doll flying across the room. He even showed some investigators Father Alphonsus's traveling mass kit.
Wow, a real piece of history there.
One pair of YouTubers, they did a really popular investigation. They claimed they were actually there for the 1974 exorcism, although other sources say it was a cleansing, not an exorcism, right?
Yeah, Clara Miller herself made that distinction. Exorcisms are for people, cleansings are for places. Important difference.
Totally. But anyway, they said they heard screaming all throughout the house during the ritual.
And they said it didn't even work. That Father Al just didn't come back the next day because he knew it was hopeless.
Yeah, a researcher who was with them on the investigation talked about an alpha spirit being in charge and warned that people could bring negative stuff home with them after visiting. And poor Nikki, that same investigator from before, said she got shoved and even punched in the face by something she couldn't see.
Gosh, that's intense. I can see why people would be so drawn to the house, but also so scared of it at the same time.
Totally. And then they had a sleep paralysis incident, heard wet footsteps, and tons of other weird noises. They were even poked by something that felt like a needle. The living room was definitely a hot spot, where the 74 thing happened, and also where that Ouija board went haywire with the Dandies.
Yeah, the doll flying at Mike. Definitely makes you wonder what was going on there.
For sure. And they were really freaked out by the dolls in the house. Who wouldn't be after that?
True. But did they go down to the basement, too? With that scary staircase and the crawl space?
Oh, yeah, they checked out the basement. And get this, they heard music playing out of nowhere and saw a shadow figure outside. Then they went to the pond, which apparently has its own creepy stories attached.
Oh, like the buggy woman. Isn't she supposed to be this woman in white with red hair and bulging eyes dancing by the pond?
Yeah, and supposedly Clara and her daughters heard chanting near the pond, too. Even Phil, Clara's husband, freaked out when anyone mentioned the buggy woman. And Clara said that, right before they left, the buggy woman whispered to her.
Chilling.
These guys actually tried to use a raft on the pond, and their spirit box was pointing to the pond as well. They even heard a scream and saw someone coming toward them while they were filming.
I would have been out of there so fast.
Their spirit box was spitting out some wild words at the pond, too, like mistress, holy opening, and devil. Spooky stuff.
So they basically hit all the hot spots.
Pretty much. They even tried meditating in the living room with hoods on, trying to make contact, and they said they heard voices and saw lights, and their EMF meter went off near a doll. Again.
Makes you wonder if the dolls are holding on to something, doesn't it?
Right. And then, back to the crawl space, the music box seemed to react to them being down there, and a spirit box asked about the alpha spirit.
So much activity, it's hard to keep track.
There's also a documentary about the Hinsdale House that tells the Dandy family's story in a lot of detail, really focuses on how quickly their peaceful country dream turned into a total nightmare.
Yeah, and it describes those apparitions, too, the white lady and the shadow figure that Phil saw. And it goes into the failed cleansing attempt and how violent the house supposedly became.
They also talk about all sorts of theories about the house's past, Native American burial grounds, massacre, occult rituals, even the idea that it's a portal to another dimension.
Wow, a portal. That's taking it to another level. But, even if some of those theories are out there, it's interesting to see how many different explanations people come up with.
Right. Shows how much this place captures people's imaginations.
Definitely. And the documentary doesn't just stop with the dandies. It talks about the investigations that happened after they left and how the house is still being used for paranormal investigations today. It also highlights how much this all affected the Dandy family.
Really emphasizes the human cost of experiencing something like this.
It mentions all those local legends too, like the hanging tree and that other stuff that happened in the area, which just adds to the overall feeling that this place is, cursed or something. And it talks about how the dandies were mocked and ridiculed after they shared their story. But luckily, Clara Miller wrote her book to set the record straight.
One last thing. We have some info from the current owner, Daniel Claes. He backs up the story about the 1974 cleansing and says he's spoken to Clara Miller himself. He's also done a lot of digging into the land's history. He says there was a Native American battle there during the Revolutionary War and that they might be unmarked graves all over the place.
Oh, wow, really? That makes sense if you think about all the residual energy people are talking about.
He also tells the story about Laura, who was really connected to the house, and her mom supposedly confirming that a full-body apparition of Laura was caught on camera. And he backs up Michael's stories about the poltergeist activity and points out that Father Alphonsus's mass kit is still in the house.
It's amazing how much history is tied up in that one place.
And he talks about the giving tree where people leave offerings for native spirits. He even brings up puckwedgies, which are like these elemental spirits from local folklore.
Puckwedgies, that's a new one.
Right. So he takes people on a tour, and apparently weird stuff happens right in front of them. A blanket moves like someone's under it. A video camera cuts out for no reason.
Typical haunted house stuff.
He even mentions a film crew from New York who documented something crazy at the house, but lost all the footage.
Oh, no. What a shame. I would love to see that.
And of course, he talks about the infamous doll that flew across the room during the Ouija board session. And specific rooms are really active, like the master bedroom closet where supposedly someone hanged themselves, and Mary's room, which the dandies boarded up because it was so infested with flies.
I'm sensing a pattern here.
And get this, during the tour, their spirit box goes nuts. It spits out names, references to the attic and the basement, talks about evil and curses, even says something about shapeshifters and those puckwedgie.
It even asks for their blood type and religion.
Creepy. Then a decoration moves, a light fixture breaks, blood supposedly drips onto a Ouija board, and the giving tree, they hear a growl in the woods, and the spirit box starts talking about evil and demons, gets stronger and stronger.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Slow down. It's a lot to process.
I know, right? And it doesn't stop there. Their phone malfunctions, the spirit box says, dig here, like there are bodies buried, they feel a bad presence upstairs. The spirit box says, 2 men here, which is how many investigators were there, and asks about the Everest brothers, and then a music box goes off, and then the spirit box says, I'm in the shadows, and he scares me.
Okay, I'm getting chills now.
Then they feel a cold spot, the EMF meter goes crazy near a doll, a flashlight battery dies super fast, the spirit box says kill, a bed creaks on its own, and then finally the spirit box says, he's coming.
I am officially spooked.
I know, right? So that's the Hinsdale House. Talk about a place with a lot of baggage. We've got the dandies' experiences, all these paranormal investigations, local legends, and theories about everything from murders to portals to other dimensions. It's hard to know what to believe, but one thing's for sure, this place is definitely not your average haunted house.
I think you're right. There's something about the Hinsdale House that's just different. Like, it's not just scary. It's unsettling,
Yeah, I get that. It makes you think, doesn't it? About what might be out there, lurking in the shadows. So after hearing all that, I have to ask you, what stuck with you the most? What piece of evidence or story or experience just like grabbed you and wouldn't let go?
Hmm. That's a tough one. There's so many to choose from. But I think for me, it's the crawl space.
Crawl
Yeah.
space.
It's the heart of the darkness there. All those stories about bodies being hidden there and the way the dandies were just terrified of it. And then Daniel finding those supposed graves with the
Yeah.
GPR. It just makes you wonder what's really buried down there.
And what might still be trapped down there, too.
Exactly. It's a place you definitely don't want to be alone in, that's for sure.
And on that note, I think we've had enough of the Hinsdale House for one night. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. It's been, it's been an experience. Be sure to check back next time when we'll explore something else that goes bump in the night. Until then, sweet dreams.
Sweet dreams, everyone. And maybe sleep with the lights on tonight, just in case.